I always thought the scariest moments in life come with warning signs, sirens, shouts, breaking glass. I was wrong. True danger arrives quietly, disguised as ordinary life. The night it happened, I had just left my best friend Harper Lynn's birthday dinner. We laughed over cupcakes and took pictures under string lights. Nothing felt strange. Nothing felt dangerous. The Uber pulled up just as I stepped outside the restaurant. The driver didn't look at me when I opened the back door. He just nodded once, eyes forward. Rain tapped against the windows as we pulled away. I remember thinking how peaceful the sound was. I had no idea I was about to face something that would change not only my life, but everything I believed about my own family. My name is Ava Monroe. I am 27 years old, a graphic designer who works from home, the kind of person who texts her mom every morning and always double-checks if the door is locked. I am careful, organized, and rational, which is why what happened next felt impossible. We had only gone 2 blocks when I noticed we didn't turn toward my street. At first, I assumed the GPS had rerouted. The city had road construction everywhere, and reroutes were normal. But then I heard the doors click, all 4 of them, locked at the same time. I leaned forward slightly. "I think you missed the turn," I said calmly. The driver didn't answer. He adjusted the mirror so his eyes met mine. There was no anger, no emotion, only a cold, heavy tension that made my heart slam in my chest. Then he spoke. "You need to listen very carefully. Someone paid me to take you somewhere else." My breath caught. In that second, my body froze. The car felt smaller, the air heavier. His voice was calm, like he was delivering instructions for a meeting, not kidnapping me, not announcing that my life was in danger. I tried to unlock my door. Nothing. Child lock. Every instinct inside me screamed to run, to fight, to do something. But I forced myself to stay still. I remembered something my mom always said when I was a kid. People who panic lose before the fight even begins. My mom, Grace Monroe, called me an hour earlier to remind me to be safe getting home. She always worried since my dad passed away. Losing him made her protective. I didn't know that in a few hours, everything I believed about his death would be questioned. "I don't understand," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Why would someone pay you to take me anywhere?" He looked away from me and focused back on the road. "Because you are not who you think you are. And tonight, someone decided it was time for you to disappear." In that moment, my life divided into 2 parts. Before that sentence, and after. If you are still here, take a second to subscribe and comment where you are watching from, because what happened next is something everyone needs to hear. Just a few hours earlier, my life felt normal. Harper's birthday dinner was warm and loud, with everyone teasing her for turning 28 before the rest of us. I brought a small silver bracelet as a gift, with her initials engraved. She hugged me so hard she almost knocked me over. If anyone had told me that by midnight I would be fighting for my life, I would have laughed. As I got ready to leave the restaurant, my phone buzzed. A message from my mom lit up the screen. "Let me know when you're home. I love you." My mom lived 2 states away but checked on me every single night. I always thought it was just a habit. I didn't know she was keeping a secret about my father that made her fear for my safety even now. Outside, the sky was dark and low with clouds. The streetlights reflected in puddles on the pavement. I pulled my coat tight around me and called an Uber. Within seconds, a black sedan stopped at the curb. The driver didn't say hello. He was a man in his 40s, short dark hair, shoulders broad beneath a gray jacket. There was something stiff about him, like he was holding his breath. I got in the back seat and buckled up. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't my mom. It was an unknown number. "You shouldn't have come out tonight." I frowned at the screen. Probably a spam message. I blocked the number without thinking twice. We drove in silence at first. I watched the familiar streets pass by, feeling the slight comfort of routine. The rain blurred the view outside. Everything looked softer, harmless. But then, the driver took the first wrong turn. A cold feeling spread through my chest. I wasn't scared yet, just alert. I leaned forward. "Hey, I think the app says to turn right on Hamilton Avenue." No response. That was the moment I heard the doors lock. He didn't threaten me. He didn't raise his voice. He simply told me the truth like it was a fact and not a death sentence. Someone paid me to take you somewhere else. My mind went straight to one person, Logan Drake. We dated for 3 years. He was charming in public, controlling in private. When I ended things 6 months ago, he told me I was making a mistake. But would he go this far? Then another message came to my phone. You should not have ignored the warnings. That was when I knew this wasn't a random crime. This was personal. The silence inside the car felt like it had its own weight, pressing against my chest. My pulse pounded in my ears, and every breath felt like it was being measured by the man sitting in front of me. The city lights were fading as we drove deeper into unfamiliar streets, the kind of places people only go if they have a reason to hide. I forced myself to think clearly and observe everything. The driver's hands were steady on the wheel. He wasn't acting impulsively. This was planned. That scared me even more than if he were someone unstable, because it meant someone had put thought into my disappearance. My phone buzzed again with another message from the blocked number. This time, it didn't just warn me, it threatened me directly. You think you are safe in that car, but you have no idea the secrets you are sitting on. Before I could react, the driver glanced at the mirror, his eyes locking onto mine with a seriousness that made my skin go cold. If you want to survive tonight, he said, do not make me your enemy. His voice was low, controlled, a voice that didn't belong to a criminal craving chaos, but someone carrying a burden he never asked for. I gripped the door handle even though it was locked, more out of instinct than logic, grounding myself against panic. I tried to speak calmly. If you're not the one trying to hurt me, then who is? That was when he finally spoke his name. My name is Rowan Hale, he said, and someone close to you paid me to make sure you disappear tonight, but they also made me a promise. They said if I delivered you alive, they would pay for my daughter's surgery. She has a heart condition. She will not survive without it. Hearing that hit me like a punch I didn't see coming. A kid, someone innocent, was at the center of this. Part of me wanted to believe him, but another part screamed that this could be a tactic to manipulate me. Yet something about his voice when he mentioned his daughter held real pain. He slid his phone slightly to the side, where the light from the dashboard illuminated a picture. It showed a little girl, no older than 6, bald from chemotherapy, smiling weakly while holding a stuffed rabbit. My chest tightened. His tone changed as he continued. I didn't know your name when I accepted the job. I didn't know who you were. When I saw it, I almost backed out. But they told me if I refused, they had other ways to get to you, and to me. So I made a different choice. I am not taking you to die. I am taking you to the truth. His words twisted my fear into confusion. My mind began racing through everyone who might want to harm me. The first name that surfaced was my ex-boyfriend Logan. He had become angry and obsessive after the breakup. He still sent me messages trying to convince me that we belonged together. Then there was my Uncle Daniel, my late father's younger brother. He had always been distant, but after my father passed away, his interest in our family affairs became strangely intense. He pressured my mother to sign legal documents regarding my father's company shares, documents I was also required to approve since they were left to me in the will. I refused because I didn't understand what they meant. My uncle wasn't happy, but would he want me gone? Or was this someone I didn't even know existed? My thoughts were abruptly interrupted when Rowan's phone rang. He pressed a button on the steering wheel to answer. The voice on the other end came through the car speakers, distorted and cold. Are you off the main road? Rowan replied with a steady, yes. The voice continued, good. Do not speak to her. Do not let her use her phone. We are tracking you. Deliver her to the site and wait for instructions. My blood went icy. They were tracking me. I slowly lowered my phone into my lap, trying not to draw attention to it. The call ended abruptly. Rowan didn't say a word. The air between us turned electric, tense, alive with danger. I tried to think strategically. Panic wouldn't save me. Information might. I needed him to keep talking. You said I'm not who I think I am. What does that mean? I asked. He hesitated before answering. Your father's death was not an accident. You inherited something he created, something powerful, something dangerous, and the people who want it believe you have access to it. Every word sent a ripple of shock through me, but there was something deeper beneath that shock, a quiet, haunting thought I didn't want to acknowledge. For months before my father died, he seemed distracted, worried. He locked his office door even when he was alone at home. I once overheard him say on the phone, "They don't know she's the key." At the time, I assumed he was talking about business. Now, sitting trapped in the back of a moving car in the middle of the night, I began to realize my father may have built a world I never knew existed, and I was now being dragged into it. The car turned onto a narrow, unlit road. Trees surrounded us like dark sentinels. I could barely see the pavement ahead. My heart was racing, but my mind was sharpening with every second. Rowan finally spoke again, his voice softer this time. "You can either fight me and end up in their hands unprepared, or you can trust me long enough to understand what's really happening. The choice is yours, Ava." My hands were trembling, but my voice came out clear. "Then start explaining, because if someone wants me, I need to know why before they get what they came for." The road ahead disappeared into a tunnel of trees, their branches bending inward like claws closing around us. Every instinct in my body told me to get out of that car before it was too late, but something else in me, something deeper, whispered that if Rowan was telling the truth, then running blindly could lead me straight into the hands of the people who wanted me gone. The car was a prison, but it was also the only place where someone was still speaking to me instead of hunting me, and that was enough to make me choose to stay calm and think rather than act on fear. I shifted forward in my seat, not aggressively, but with intention. "If you expect me to trust you," I said, "you need to tell me everything, right now." Rowan nodded as if he had been waiting for that moment, as if he knew I needed to make the decision myself. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a thin black folder. My stomach twisted when I saw my name printed across it in red ink. He handed it back to me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were copies of documents I had never seen before, classified, reports, encrypted messages, photographs of my father shaking hands with powerful government officials, and something that made my breath stop completely. A surveillance photo of me taken the day after my father's funeral. In the image, I was placing flowers on his grave. I remembered that exact moment. The sky was overcast. I was wearing a black coat, and I had glanced over my shoulder because I felt like someone was watching me. I had convinced myself it was just grief making me paranoid. But now, seeing proof, I realized I had been watched ever since my father died. My head spun as Rowan explained. Years ago, my father had developed an advanced encryption system capable of bypassing any firewall or security barrier in the world. It could expose government secrets, financial crimes, and private networks. It was powerful enough to rewrite digital reality. Countries wanted it, corporations wanted it, criminal organizations wanted it. But my father never released it. Instead, he hid the access key in a place no one would think to look, inside a genetic authentication lock tied to his own bloodline. He designed the system so that only a direct heir could activate it. That heir was me. I was not just the target. I was the access point. As Rowan spoke, the puzzle pieces of the last year of my life started snapping into place with terrifying clarity. My father's sudden death, the pressure from my uncle to sign corporate papers, the strange phone calls my mother always ignored, the encrypted email I received 6 months ago that I had deleted because it wouldn't open. I thought it was spam. Now I realized I had likely deleted the key to everything. Rowan's voice softened when he said, "You are not in danger because of who you are. You are in danger because of what you inherited." I could feel something change inside me. My fear was still there, but it was no longer in control. A wave of determination rose in its place, not because I felt brave, but because I finally understood what was at stake. If I panicked, I would die. If I stayed quiet, I would be used. But if I played this right, I might uncover the truth my father died protecting. Rowan slowed the car as we approached a fork in the road. The GPS directed him left, toward the location where he was supposed to deliver me. Instead, Without speaking, he turned right. Within seconds, his phone began to ring again, vibrating violently on the dashboard. The same unknown voice came through the speakers, now filled with anger. "Turn around now or the deal is off." Rowan ignored the command. He muted the call and kept driving. My heart pounded with new tension. If he had just double-crossed the people who hired him, we were now both targets. There was no going back. I leaned forward and spoke with a steadiness I didn't feel. "What do you need from me?" Rowan's eyes met mine in the mirror. "You need to access your father's system before they do, and you need to decide what to do with what you find. Once it's opened, there is no undoing it. Truth does not care who it destroys." Those words hit me hard. It was the moment I realized this was not about saving just myself. This was about choosing between protecting my father's legacy or exposing a global network of corruption. My hands clenched into fists as I whispered, "I will not run. Tell me how to open it." Rowan nodded once and pulled into an abandoned rest area off the side of the road. The rain had stopped, leaving the world outside dark and still. It felt like the earth itself had paused to watch what would come next. He handed me a small flash drive. It looked ordinary, like one you might use to save school assignments, but as I held it, I felt the gravity of what it contained. "Once you insert this into a system," Rowan said, "it will ask for your father's last spoken command, a voice recognition key. Only you can unlock it, because only you carry his biometric imprint in your voice." My heart twisted as emotion filled my chest. I remembered my last conversation with my father before he died. He told me a phrase that made no sense at the time. "Guard what is unseen." I had dismissed it as metaphor. Now I realized it might have been the key. With the flash drive in my hand and truth within reach, I understood that tonight was no longer about survival. It was about awakening. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting to danger. I was walking toward it, armed with knowledge and ready to confront the world my father left behind. Rainwater dripped from the edges of the abandoned warehouse roof as Rowan pulled the car behind a stack of rusted shipping containers. The silence outside was unnaturally still, the kind of silence that waits for something catastrophic to break it. My heartbeat echoed in my ears as I held the flash drive tightly in my palm. The warehouse loomed in front of us, a wide concrete structure with broken windows and flickering security lights, the perfect place for secrets to be buried. Rowan shut off the engine and turned toward me. "What happens next will determine everything," he said. "The people inside either want to control you or erase you. You have one advantage: they don't know that you know." Before I could respond, headlights appeared at the far end of the lot. Multiple black SUVs pulled in, their engines rumbling in unison like a coordinated heartbeat. Figures stepped out, tall, dressed in suits, moving with military precision. And then I saw him, my Uncle Daniel. He was calm, purposeful, not shocked to see me. It was as if he had been waiting. He approached slowly, his expression unreadable under the dim lights. Rowan opened his door and stepped out, motioning for me to stay inside. But I refused. I opened my door and stood beside him. The cold air slapped against my face, helping me stay alert. Uncle Daniel stopped 5 feet away and looked directly at me. There was no concern in his eyes, only an unsettling calm. "Ava," he said, "you shouldn't be here. This didn't need to happen like this." My voice came out steady. "You hired someone to abduct me." He shook his head, almost disappointed. "I hired someone to protect you from what you don't understand." He nodded toward Rowan, but did not acknowledge him as an enemy. That confused me. Rowan stepped slightly in front of me protectively. "You told me to deliver her to be eliminated," Rowan said. Daniel's jaw tensed. "I told you to bring her to me. What happens after that depends on what she chooses." My breath caught. Daniel continued, his tone colder now. "Your father created something that could bring down empires. He believed he could change the world, but he got in too deep. There are people far more powerful than him, people who allowed him to build that system because they believed they could control the outcome. When he refused them, they killed him. And now they will kill anyone who stands in their way, including you." My head spun as his words struck me like physical blows. My father was not a hero or a villain. He was a man who thought he could outmaneuver forces beyond his control. Daniel looked at me with a mix of anger and something that almost looked like sorrow. "I tried to protect this family from the consequences," he said. "If that system goes public, it won't just expose them. It will expose everyone, every transaction, every alliance, every hidden truth. No one will be safe. Not you, not your mother, not even me." At that moment, armed guards moved to surround us. Rowan slid a small knife from his pocket and whispered, "Run on my signal." But then Daniel raised his hand to stop the guards. "No one is dying tonight unless she forces it," he said, pointing at me. "Ava, you have the key. The world is waiting for your decision." The ground beneath my feet felt unsteady. For months, I had believed my father died from a heart attack. Now I stood face to face with the man who claimed he was trying to save us from something worse. My uncle took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Your father left you a final message. It's embedded in the system. The moment you access it, you will see the truth he died trying to hide. But once you do, there is no turning back. You will either become the most powerful target in the world or the one who ends the game entirely." Before I could respond, Rowan handed me the flash drive. The warehouse door creaked open, and a makeshift command center flickered with monitors and computers. A single laptop sat on a table. I walked toward it, every step heavy with the weight of history. Daniel stood behind me. Rowan stood beside me. I inserted the flash drive. The screen lit up. A voice recognition prompt appeared. "Please speak the activation phrase." Tears filled my eyes as I remembered my father's last words to me before he died. He held my hand and said, "Guard what is unseen. For what is unseen guards you." I repeated the phrase out loud. The system accepted it. The screen flooded with encrypted files, names of politicians, corporations, intelligence agencies, offshore accounts, criminal networks, all tied to one central entity responsible for global manipulation. My father had not built a weapon to destroy the world. He had built one to reveal it. My uncle leaned in, his voice shaking for the first time. "Now you know, and now you must choose. Do you release it, or do you bury it forever?" In that moment, staring at the truth my father died to protect, I realized my choice would not just determine my fate, but the fate of millions. As I stood in front of the monitor, watching the files decrypt one after another, I understood that no matter what choice I made, my life would never return to the quiet normalcy I once took for granted. The truth wasn't a single moment. It was a flood that could drown the powerful or wash away entire systems of control. Rowan stood silently to my right, eyes fixed on the screens with quiet determination, while Uncle Daniel remained still, his expression torn between desperation and resignation. He wasn't pleading for his freedom. He was pleading for what he believed was the only way to protect the world from collapse. My father's voice came through a final recorded video that automatically opened. His face appeared tired, eyes heavy with the kind of sorrow that only a man facing the consequences of his own creation could hold. "Ava," he said, "if you are seeing this, they failed to stop you. What I built was never meant to be owned. It was meant to be seen. Truth is not gentle. It does not comfort. It burns. But what is burned can be rebuilt honest." I felt something inside me shift, not toward anger or fear, but toward clarity. My father didn't want me to protect his legacy. He wanted me to free the world from the lies that bound it. Rowan stepped forward and placed his hand lightly on my arm. "Whatever you decide, I will back you," he said softly. My uncle took a step closer, his eyes locked on mine. "If you do this," he warned, "governments will fall, families will be destroyed, economies could crash, people will suffer in the chaos. You have no idea what power does once it is unmasked." I turned toward him. "People are already suffering in silence," I replied. "Maybe the truth is the only thing left that can save them." With that, I pressed the command to release the files to every major news outlet, encrypted cloud server, and independent whistleblower platform in the world. The screen flashed a confirmation. The truth was no longer contained. It was unleashed. Instantly, the warehouse erupted in chaos. Daniel shouted for his men to stop it, but it was too late. The system had gone global. Rowan pulled me back as the guards rushed forward, and sirens wailed in the distance. Law enforcement, tipped off by the same data I had just released, was closing in on the location. In the madness that followed, Daniel didn't fight. He simply sank to his knees, staring blankly as if he had just witnessed the end of his world. He wasn't just afraid of the consequences. He was mourning the collapse of everything he had spent his life trying to control. Rowan grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the back exit as helicopters thundered overhead. We made it out just as federal agents stormed the entrance. For the first time since the car ride began, the night air felt breathable. I looked at Rowan. The hardened look he carried all night was gone, replaced by something I hadn't seen before. Relief. They will come for us, I said quietly. He nodded. Yes, but they will have to face the truth first. In the weeks that followed, the world changed. Headlines dominated every screen. Global networks were exposed. Secret accounts were frozen. Former untouchables were arrested. Whistleblowers came forward in countries across every continent. Economies shook. Politicians resigned. And for the first time in decades, people began demanding transparency, not just from their governments, but from each other. Some called it the digital revolution. Others called it a global reckoning. For me, it was the moment I finally understood the weight of the legacy left to me. My father didn't give me his company. He gave me a choice between silence and truth, and I chose truth. Rowan's daughter received her surgery, fully funded by a humanitarian fund created from recovered criminal assets. Rowan disappeared from public view, but one morning, I received a handwritten note delivered to my door. It said, "Thank you for saving more than just her." It was signed with a single initial, R. As for Uncle Daniel, he confessed everything. During his testimony, he said I had done what he never had the courage to do, break the cycle. My mother moved in with me temporarily, not because she was afraid, but because she said she finally felt free to tell me everything my father had been hiding to protect us. We didn't cry in sorrow. We cried in relief. People often ask me if I regret what I did, if I regret losing the life of comfort and anonymity I once had. My answer is always the same. I never lost my life. I found it. Not the one I was born into, but the one I chose to build. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, and I'm not pretending I'm safe. But now I understand something my father realized too late. You cannot hide from truth. You can either be crushed by it, or you can set it free and stand with it, no matter the cost. I chose to set it free, and in doing so, I set myself free too. If this story shook you, if it made you question what you would do in my place, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because your voice matters. And your story might be the next one the world needs to hear.